Hi, guys, and welcome back to the PE podcast. This is going to be a small series of short clips. They're going to be small highlights from individual videos talking about similar topics. Today's video is going to be about coping mechanisms, routines, and how people deal with different challenges in their life on a day-to-day basis. I hope you enjoy these videos. I'm currently in the process of putting together series 2. So in the meantime, I hope you enjoy today's clip, and I'll let you get on with it now.
The best way to get through a barrier or an obstacle, it's your perception of that obstacle. So if your perception is negative, then you're going to quit. But actually, if you look at the obstacle as the opportunity to not only push yourself, but to learn new skills and to further yourself, you're going to find a way to get over that obstacle. You go over it, you go under it, you go through it, you go through the side of it, but there is a way. There's always a way. It's whether or not you're willing to put the effort in to find that way. And we know that like along that way, along that path, there's going to be a lot of, it's going to be unpredictable. You're going to be pushed to the limit. But it's whether or not you are so kind of passionate about that goal that you're willing to put yourself through it. And sometimes it's like, right, how much do you want that goal? Can you afford to quit and in 7 years' time look back and go, I regret that? Do you want to live with regret, or do you go for it? And if you go for it on the day and it doesn't work out, great. You've learned that actually you can push yourself. Sometimes you won't achieve it, sometimes you will, but at least then you've learned new skills you can apply in the future. But if you don't go all in, no matter what happens, you're not going to really learn much about yourself. And I always say to people, like, it's about reaching your potential in life. It doesn't matter if you get to the top level or not. What is your potential? Forget about other people's potential. Don't compare yourself because nobody's you. So it's all about trying to reach your own potential and your true happiness. So for me, I'm happy pushing myself to the limit until I get to.
It's setting yourself a routine. I'll use the last lockdown as an example. The first lockdown in obviously a year ago now, I really struggled with it. And I think there was one thing I never, I've always been one of them. And I was like it when I was younger. I didn't want to go to school. I don't want to get up in the morning, go to work. But I think, like you say, after having that sort of time to reflect and, you can get yourself into a bad state of mind. I remember when we went back in September, I was so anxious to go back to work. And I think that's something a lot of kids will relate to now going back to school. And I think for the reason, probably similar reasons, obviously not cutting hair, but I was thinking, there's going to be 20, 30 people outside the shop waiting, it's going to be really busy. I'm going to be back to back. I'm going to have my phone's going to be going, are you open? Are you busy? And I think I was dating myself after being off for 3 months. I was thinking, am I going to be able to go back and cut hair? I haven't done it for 3 months. And as I can imagine, I can imagine with a lot of kids now thinking the same thing. They haven't been around kids in a classroom probably for so long. And I guess that although everyone wants lockdown to end, I guess that's the other thing. There's going to be a lot of people, and I think I'll be like it to an extent. I'll be a little bit. I don't want to, sort of be crowded, and I suppose I do worry about that really. But in terms of coping and stuff like that, I think for one, I don't know if a lot of young people do this now, but I think just going for biggest thing for me is exercising, and I don't do it enough. I think if I did it more, I'd probably be a lot happier, but. Just sometimes I wake up in the morning and I don't even think about it. I get out of bed and I just go for a run. And I know that's hard, obviously, depends on, your age and stuff. You can't just leave the house. But even if it's, I know you probably heard of it, like Joe Wicks, doing that. I was doing that in the last lockdown, and I felt a bit stupid at first because I'll be honest, I thought it was more for like women and young children. But, I was doing that with my other half and, we was having a laugh doing it as well. And I can't stress enough how you will never ever feel bad after doing some sort of exercise. At the time you think, oh, I don't really want to do it, but if you can, like I say, just do a little workout on YouTube or just come up with something yourself, I think that helps massively. Doing that in the morning, that can really set your mind for the day. Especially like when work's normally open, I tend to go to the gym I don't even do a lot, to be honest, but I tend to go for about half an hour in the morning just to give me that focus, and then I know I'm not going to be thinking about all the negative things then when I go to work. So I feel a lot worried. Definitely the mindfulness. I know there's an app called Calm. Probably a lot of people are familiar with that now. I think they do charge, but you do get freebies on there. And I think there's a lot of exercises on there where there's one called 7 days of of anxiety, and each day will sort of take you through a different technique of how you can combat that. As I said before, the biggest one, the first one, the easiest one, if you like, is just sort of breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and then it's sort of just focusing on nothing really, and if your mind does wander, bringing it back to your breath, or how relaxed you are. But yeah, I just think for me the two key things are probably mindfulness and exercise. And I think the other thing is, and I was very guilty of this when I was younger, I suppose it's a bit harder now in lockdown, but when you get back from school and your mum and dad ask you how your day has been, don't just say, oh yeah, it's all right. Be honest. If you've had a rubbish day, tell them how you feel, or tell them what's on your mind.
And I think I mentioned it earlier on, didn't I, that my target was obviously to get back to full fitness and to ultimately sign then back at a professional club. But I understood that I had benchmarks. So at first it was to strengthen the muscle after I had the initial operation. I actually had a setback with that. I got an infection, and that sort of set me back another few weeks. But just having different, markers to hit. So first was to strengthen the muscle. Then it was to, do my stretching and build that up then into some running, then into sprinting. So each section I'd sort of, tick it off and go, right, I'm here. This is the next block. Because like I said, if you look at the sort of the 4-month period from when I first did it, that was ultimately very daunting. And again, mentally, I think would drain you. So I think it's important to go, right, what's my first marker? Where do I need to hit first? Once you've hit that, right, brilliant, tick that off. What's my next little block? And then before you know it, all of a sudden you're along that journey. And I was literally into, a couple of weeks from being back to full fitness. So, ultimately that 4.5 month period didn't really looking back, feel like that long, because like I say, I just literally got my head down and set the markers along the way. So, and
I've missed a penalty, I've had injuries, I've not been selected, and all of them, probably, if I'm honest, they're all highly traumatic and like really sit deep in you. So I think my first time I didn't get picked, I was 14, and I vowed that I would never not get picked again. And in a non-arrogant way, I never not got picked again because of that one moment. It made me more resilient. It made me more focused. It kind of, it made me bounce back. So any negative, I always see it as how can I react? What positives can I get from it? And how do I bounce back? And it's the same, like, as I'm talking to kids now, and my niece, failure is not failure. You got to learn from it. I was reading a book the other day, Black Box Thinking, where you only learn from mistakes. So I think the biggest coping mechanism is just get your butt out of bed and get going and get training and get working harder and work harder and harder. Whether you're dyslexic, you work harder, you get a workbook, you get a book. If you are not fit, you get on the track and you run. Like, you can control everything. You can control, like, my attitude was, as long as I can look myself in the mirror and know that I've given the best that day, for me, that was the best coping mechanism, because I would have no regrets. In terms of injuries, that's a little bit harder. For me, that was the biggest one that really probably messed my career a lot and for a long, long period of time. But again, I took positives from it. I went back to education while I was injured. I learned other things while I was out injured. And again, I became more resilient from it. So I might not have been necessarily the same player, but I came out of it with a lot more positives than actually I had before. And in the long term, it's worked out better for me. So everything is a learning lesson. And, I always try and take negatives and come out with as many positives as possible. And I think that's the biggest coping mechanism. And I think one is to not suffer in silence as well. So for any youngsters that are watching, is that if you are struggling, just speak up, say that you're struggling. I know that at times I definitely didn't, and I wish I would have said I'm struggling, or I wish people had took more time to look at the behaviours and were like, that person is struggling. So, but again, that makes you learn more about yourself and you become more resilient. So that's what I would learn from all those kind of traumatic events in my life anyway.
And it can become, I like to use the analogy again of a bubble. You can be so focused and it can become so intense sometimes that you can't see a way out of it, especially if you're, working towards getting a certain grade or getting selected for the race or the team. It can become so overwhelming. And like you say, it can be easy just to hide yourself away. And I think that's where you've got to make sure you've got stuff in place. So coping strategies, like you just mentioned, taking time for yourself, doing stuff you enjoy, whether it's going for a walk with a friend or walking your dog, or just having a day of listening to some of your favorite music or watching a series, or going out, and when obviously normal circumstances are with a group of friends, and cycling or running or going swimming or to the gym, making sure that that's in place. I think that's key.
Right then, that's the first highlights episode complete. We've spoken to a range of different individuals from a range of different backgrounds about how they manage their challenges and the daily routines that they put in place to overcome and manage anxiety, stresses, and things of that nature. I hope you've enjoyed that episode, and next week's highlights episode will focus on a different topic altogether. So come back next Saturday for the second highlights episode. Hope you all have a great weekend and a great week. And I'll see you all here again at the same time next week.